stuff and that now. But yeah, I'm used to being trapped in my house, so I don't mind. I don't get out much. I'm such a boring person that I'm quite happy in my house.
Well, I was going to say thanks a lot for agreeing to come on because I've seen a lot of your videos, but perhaps not a lot of content in
Yeah,
the way of sort of either audio or like video. But I know you
yeah,
did. You have done a lot of workshops though, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've done all sorts really. But I've been injured for so long at the minute that I've just not been putting out or doing an awful lot. Since I tore my adductor in, it was nearly a year ago. It was in August. It was when I had it scanned. It was a 7 centimeter tear.
Oh, that is.
Quite a big boy. And then it was rescanned in March or April. And it still had a 3 centimeter tear. And
Oh
then
wow.
it was starting to get better again. I was actually getting fairly strong, and then it went ping again like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm being pretty gentle with it again now.
Uh,
One day
if
I'll do some training.
I'm with you there with adductors. I think I had a tear I think maybe no 5 years ago.
Yeah,
It just seems like there's something with the adductor that's so debilitating. Um, it just
yeah,
shuts off so much of your lower body training.
yeah. It's just been mad. So like, I'd been trying to squat, and like I'd do some squats, and it would get sore again. So I'd wait like I don't know 4 or 5 days for the pain to go down, and squat again. And then in the end, just by chance, I thought I'd try front squats, and they
Mm.
were so much better. So I've actually started pushing those a little bit, and I've just abandoned back squats because like I back squatted say a month ago, and even doing 120 for reps ruined me afterwards for days. It was like sore even to touch. And then the front squats, I'm now front squatting more than I was back squatting anyway. Like I did 155 for free this week, and it was pretty easy. But
So
yeah,
so that's funny. So like front squat seems okay on your reductor, back
yeah,
squats not so much.
yeah.
Are you doing? Are you having any within your warm up? Because that's the one thing I was gonna wanted to chat to you about with weightlifting. It's like in a lot of strength sports, warm ups are I would say very short,
Yeah.
and people don't really do enough. And I wouldn't say that. Yeah, the majority of people I've encountered, and it's always like it's certainly in the powerlifting world. It's like people are well, don't do too many warm ups. You don't want to tire yourself out for this one rep event.
Yeah.
But
So,
have you got a very specific warm up now?
yeah. So like I have for years. So I've always been someone that's like for more than 10 years that people get annoyed with me for warming up for too long because like I'll meet them at a gym a certain time, we'll start training. 5 minutes later, they're ready to put a weight on the bar, and I'm still rubbing my knees because they basically need numbing out. So I have to just like kneel down and ride backwards and forwards on my knees for that. I think they're called Spanish squats, where you get a band tied round, so it's pulling the bottom of your leg forward. So you're doing squats like that again to because I've
Yeah,
basically
I
got no cartilage left in my knees. I've got no meniscus left, and I've got arthritis from the bones that are just rubbing. So I've got bits of bone fragments coming off and stuff. So it just separates the joints, makes a little gap, feels real nice. So I do all of that stuff. Do a lot of general body weight stuff, lunging, squatting, even a little bit of static stretching that I need to do
mm,
because it helps my knees. And then all my adductor stuff, and then stuff for my ruined shoulder as well. And then often some tricep stuff as well because I had big elbow surgery. And like it's sort of, if I power through it like a
yeah,
fitness workout without stopping, I can get through all of that stuff in 10 minutes. But before I've actually put a weight on the bar, it's like 15 minutes of continuous
hmm
various things and bar stuff before I'm ready to do anything. Um,
and like before you were because I've heard about your injuries, your
yeah,
extensive list of injuries.
yeah.
Before you were maybe that injured, what because like with weightlifting you have a kind of a longer warm up anyway. So was that very much ingrained in you, or would you say you were like, nah, I was younger, I just kind of went in, did a few empty bar snatches, and I'm ready to go?
Um, no, I don't think well, for my first like maybe 2 years in weightlifting,
Hmm.
it was just like do a few air squats and then start. because that's what they did at the gym that I was at, like where I learned to lift. It was very much like that. But like my body started feeling old real quick, and I think I got strong pretty quickly, like at a young age. So I think I first squatted 200 when I was 16, and like for a weightlifter, so I was 69 kilos, and so given that like
It's
weightlifting is my
huge.
sport, not powerlifting, then it's like it's a decent squat. I think I was when I started weightlifting, I was 40, about 40 kilos, because I remember I soon did my first.
So how old were you then?
Just turned. It was 14. It was the day after my 14th birthday. Um, that I went down. I was going to a gymnastics gym. I'd been going to like just rec classes there for about 6 months,
Mm.
and then someone was like, "Go and have a go at weightlifting." In what was literally a room cupboard that Andy had decided to rent out, and I literally mean it was just an empty cupboard, as in no proper flooring or anything down, not anything, and he just put like two platforms down, brought his own bars and weights, and was like, "This is now a gym."
It sounds like it was as well funded then as it is now.
Oh yeah, real good funding. So yeah, it literally was just like have a go, and then we just cracked on with it. But I was doing some like gymnastic stuff, some tricking
Mhm.
stuff at the time as well. So I was quite big on like stretching and mobility anyway, and so I quickly developed my own stuff that I like to do a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Like yeah, so I kind of made my own stuff up really as I went along.
So that's cool. So you came from essentially gymnastics into weightlifting.
Yes and no. I don't ever like to say that though, because I never did it in any serious manner. I don't want it to sound like I'm a gymnast. Like I turned up to a gymnastics gym with a mate when I was about 13 and told them we want to learn how to do backflips. They were like, "I think you mean somersault, not flips." I'm like, "Whatever," but I want to do twisty stuff in the air. Teach me. And so we did. We learned how to do like wall flips, back like flicks, somersaults, like little tumbles
So
and stuff like that.
you were ready for the parkour revolution.
Yeah, that was exactly, that was like the same time. So then, um, yeah, they did like an adult gym session there as well. Who used to go and like join in with the parkour guys
I
and stuff on a
yeah,
Wednesday and so
gave it a
on.
go a few times.
Yeah, it's a good laugh, I enjoyed it. And it looks pretty cool.
It
So
does.
yeah, it was when that was coming up like pretty big. But then started weightlifting and just liked it more.
Hmm.
I just thought it was pretty cool, and I was just enjoyed getting strong. It's a nice feeling, really, isn't it? Like it's so trackable as well, weightlifting. Like just like I still remember like certain numbers when I was a kid. Like so I must have been 14 still. My first double body weight back squat, weighing in 51 kilos, doing 102 and a half because we didn't have
Sick.
the fancy
If
modern weights. Yeah, I don't know, stuff like that. Like you just remember those little increments that you get.
yeah, I think people really respond. Everyone responds very well to progress that's viewable, as long as you
Yeah,
can see it and it's
yeah,
tangible and
exactly.
it feels. And the thing I like about strength training as well is it feels like you have such a big handle in it,
Yeah,
whereas like it still does. But when people are dieting and they're losing weight, like it's like the training side, it's not really that hard.
yeah,
Knowing that you need to be in a calorie deficit, not that hard. Being in a calorie deficit, really fucking hard. And you sometimes feel like, certainly when I've done it, I'm like, I got a handle on this and I got a handle on numbers, but not putting stuff in my mouth. I feel like
yeah,
someone else is controlling that. But like,
yeah,
yeah, with strength, it's just so much easier to feel like you have all of that
yeah,
control over what's happening.
yeah. And like, I like hard work. I like training hard in the gym. So for me, like, I don't know, that's easy. If I want to do whatever a session, I'll just get through it. I'll crack on with it.
Mm.
And like, you're gonna get the improvements, or you'll snap. But like, as long as you don't snap, you'll get stronger.
So when did your first injury strike you? Like how young into your training were you for that?
I think so. When I was probably 15, I got back issues. I couldn't lift or train for like 4 months. I had facet joint injections to fix that. So like the little bit on your vertebra that stick out backwards, they were all mangled and tapping away at a bit of bone or something like that. Yeah. So I had some injections to basically to numb the nerves around that area.
That
So
sounds like a horrible injection and like a very scary place.
yeah, well, I've had it done twice, and I had it done a few years later as well, and they basically all they do is they kill the nerve. They stick something in to kill the nerves, but they need to know that you're getting to the right ones. So they have a big needle with an electric current going through it, and they basically electrocute the nerves until they find the one that creates your pain. And then when you get to the right one, then they stick the other stuff in that's gonna numb it. So
That's
yeah,
shit. How old were you for that one? Sorry.
15.
Oh
Um,
my days.
yeah, I was thinking about it now actually. Like I don't know, sports and
So you
stuff
must
like
have.
the way you are with the way you wouldn't do that. I don't think with a 15-year-old these days.
I
You
don't.
tell them to do like 10 years of physio and core exercises and dead bugs and whatever other weird stuff that wouldn't really make a difference. Like I'm not a believer in that stuff. I think that came across
I'm.
well. Like if you're a middle-aged person who works at a desk, then sure, that's gonna help you. But like when you wanna, even then squat 150 at
Mm.
60 kilos, like that stuff isn't gonna save you. Um,
I always feel like it's sometimes going to a physio is such a hard job for them. When you go to a physio, you know, I got XYZ problem. It's like a lot of what has been taught is that's the fail safe.
yeah,
If I don't know what it is, then it's probably coming from the middle. So I suggest you do some bird dogs.
yeah.
And then,
Um, it's like an osteo. I think it's osteo. You go to an osteo and you can guarantee no matter what is wrong with you, they'll tell you it's either coming from your thoracic or your hips. And it could literally be, you could be like, I got a sore finger. They're like, it's your thoracic, it's stuck, so we need to do this. But it's like
solution
their
that.
go-to exercises. So yeah, sorry to anyone who's a osteo. Probably just lost you some money.
Well, it's always like as soon as you say to if you could see anybody who doesn't lift or who's never lifted or worked with many people, then they just really don't understand.
Yeah.
You probably they're like, I probably don't go and squat. You're like, yeah, that's not an option. Like it's how I'm gonna squat
Yeah.
because
Um,
and so from you must have been at a pretty good level then at 15 to be able to have that or for that to be on the cards as like a viable option for what sounds like a like terrifying injection.
yeah. I think at that point I don't know. I didn't really even think about it as a kid. Yeah, but I'm trying to work it out now. So 15 was probably, would I still been a 56 lifter? Not lifting very much. Maybe a 62. As a
Mm-hmm.
62, a clean jerk like 105, probably 15 years old. Yeah,
Wow,
but was
that
quite a good
sounds ahead of the
squatter.
curve.
I could squat like 150, probably 160, I guess. Because I think when I was 16, I squatted 200, and I think when I was 15, I could do about 160. Like it went up a lot in those first couple of years. So did my body weight. I went from like in the first 2 years from 42 kilos to 69 over like 2.5 years.
Oh, that's
I I mean, to be fair, I think that's part of why I'm so broken because I got strong pretty early. So it's
mm,
like I've had a long time of
mm.
just crushing my body over the years.
Yeah, because you're what 27, 28,
29 now.
29.
Yeah,
So
30.
essentially it's like and you still got another year until it's supposed to go downhill.
Yeah, I feel like I started that one early.
See, well, yeah, like when you say that you've been lifting, well, weightlifting from 14, I suppose it is a long time.
Yeah, it's 15 years, getting on for 16 years.
Yeah,
It's quite a long time. Like, to be fair, the strongest I ever been was probably 2 years ago. And like I was doing my teacher training working in a school, and so like I shouldn't have been that strong, but I don't know, like I was just not doing much weightlifting, so I was going in and just doing loads of squats and stuff like that, and got up to like a
yeah.
230 pause squat and stuff, and was um yeah, doing quite well. Because before that point I was like, yeah, I'm probably getting too old, and then I did it and was like, oh, actually turns out I'm not. But then I did that, then I tore the cartilage in my knee again like a month after that,
Yeah.
and then 4 months after that, I tore my adductor, and then haven't done an awful lot since.
And what's your plans? I mean, like, you plan on them rehabbing and getting to as many comps and qualifying because it's on a point system now for the Olympics, right?
Yeah, so basically, because I missed the Worlds in 2019, it
Hmm.
basically took me out of any Olympic chances because you have to compete in like it's three sections basically,
Hmm.
and you have to compete in all of those three sections, and those your best competition from each of those three sections is like basically added together plus one
Yeah.
more. But I missed the Worlds because that was when I tore my adductor, and then
Hmm.
once you miss one, you basically can't make back those points. So I'm sort of in like a weird position of I don't really know what I'm doing with myself. So when the Rona hit, I was like, I use this as a chance to do something different for a bit and just be doing kettlebell stuff and
Hmm.
fitness stuff that I've never done, and quite enjoying it and using it as like a bit of a break. And
Yeah.
then now I'm sort of well, I finally was like, right, I'm gonna start getting stronger, and then my adductor went ping again, but nowhere near as bad. So
Okay.
I'm hoping to start actually trying to build up a bit of strength now, and then just kind of see what happens. Yeah,
With the point system, I suppose if you miss, would you get more points at a major tournament like Worlds?
yeah. So like this gold, silver, and bronze events.
Mhm.
But then so basically you had to do the Europeans, Worlds, and the following Europeans because the only way to get enough points is by doing those three competitions because the other people that are all trying to
Hmm.
qualify will all have done those, and for a gold you get an extra 10%, so you're never going to make that back basically if you don't do those
Yeah,
competitions.
and that seems like a very quick way of like small making the pool very small.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's what they wanted to do though, as well, like because they don't want to have A and B groups at an Olympics with say 20 people in it. They want to make it a straight A group with only 10 or 12 lifters in it.
oh shit, okay.
And the idea behind it was that if you have to compete in each of these blocks at these competitions, then you can be drug tested. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know, there was another one of these documentaries come out. I haven't even watched it. I sort of given up on it, like about
Yeah.
weightlifting, the Lord of the Lifters, I think it was this time.
Hmm.
There's more coming out about Tamas Ayan, who's the head of the International Weightlifting Federation,
Mm.
and he's like got what was it? It's like $500,000 has been paid to him privately, and like they've recorded him being given bribes of like up to 20 grand for their lifters to test positive at the Worlds. They've shown that loads of the medalists at World and Europeans weren't even tested, not even like some competitions. I think the tests happen and they just paid to
Yeah.
come up clean, but they just didn't even do it this time.
So
So like, yeah,
wasn't there a thing before where it was like the qualifying points? It's like the country could sort of qualify, and then those lifters have been tested, but they're the B group lifters, and they say,
yeah, yeah. So you used to be able to, you used to get like team points. And so like your ranking at a world championships would get X amount of points. So obviously like from I
mm,
think it's from first to 20th. So yeah, if you got first, say you get 20 points, and then say if you got so seven male lifters that each get, I don't know, each come fifth or something,
yeah,
that would be enough points to probably get a full men's team there. So yeah, it was all a point system, and then they claimed that this was like an anti-doping measure, the new one, which like on the face of it is, but it's more of an anti-doping measure in the sense of weightlifting wanted to make it look like we were doing anti-doping stuff so we didn't get kicked out of the Olympics. But
yeah,
in reality, it's like is as corrupt as it gets.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because I mean, the GB funding was brought back what in 2018? They stopped that
good
or 19?
question. I don't even know. So the men's funding completely stopped in 2014, and
Mm.
then they carried on funding women for a few more years. But I don't know. Once they didn't give it to me anymore, I was just like,
Yeah,
I don't care what they're doing.
it seems like with the Olympics, like making that pool smaller, but it's also making it very bureaucratic.
Yeah,
Like having having you have to do X, Y, Z. I think from the testing side of things as well. Like, has it for you with the way that weightlifting is in the news? Certainly the last what 2 years. Every time
yeah,
weightlifting is in the news, it's something negative to do
yeah,
with someone has been caught, be it
yeah.
historically or recently. Has that tarnished it for you at all?
So like again, so this is a thing that I don't think you really would do with like young kids coming into weightlifting. But like when I started weightlifting, the coach when we were like 14 was like, I'm gonna warn you now, like your real target is to win a Commonwealth Games because you won't win Olympic Games because everyone there is on drugs. Like
Hmm.
same with World Championships. And like the best example I can, well, two good examples is when I remember going to the Worlds in 2015. I lifted well. I think I did 145, 175, at 77. It was like British record and stuff. It was a good competition for me. And I remember looking at the start list before. So, the start list is in order of what you've put, like a predicted total.
Yeah.
And I think I was 11th on the start list. And so of the 10 people ahead of me on the start list, 8 of them of the 10 had already been on bans before and all steroids. And so like when you go in there and you know that 8 of the people of the 10 ahead of you have already been banned for steroids, like, and come back and now lifting more,
Yeah.
that like it's just a joke. But we were
Hmm.
kind of told that from the start. We were kind of
Yeah.
pre-warned that that is weightlifting.
Yeah.
In some ways, like for me, when it's all come out with this like Icarus documentary and stuff,
Hmm.
it's actually been really nice because like in the past, when you do the competitions and big ones and people ask how you did and you're like, oh, I came 15th, and they're kind of like, oh, and if you just say like, well, you can't really compete against people who've been on drugs since they were 15,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh yeah, the old blame everyone on drugs thing. So actually, it's quite nice that now people are actually realizing that it wasn't just made up. Like that is
Hmm.
actually weightlifting, and they are genuinely all taking drugs since like
Hmm.
15. Like Kasharina, who's the best in the world, she had her first ban at 15. So she's the best like woman in the world, super heavyweight. And then
Yeah.
Lashley, not many people know he had a ban, but while he was still a junior, he was like 17 or something like that. He's now world record holder and everything in snatch and
And what's the ban? 2 years or 4?
yeah, 2 years. So he got banned at say 18, came back at 20, and then did a junior world record. And he just done more world records since. Like, well, there was a Chinese guy, Liao Hui, a few years ago. He got banned, and then he broke a clean and jerk world record. His test came back positive from that event, and then in his first competition back 2 years later, he just rebroke the world record. So like, he's not got any cleaner, has he?
It seems like they're getting a green light. It's like, hey, you can have like a 2-year break. It's fine. We know it's happening.
Yeah, it is. It's a crazy situation.
I
Like,
wonder, like, how more severe could it be made to make it seem like a bigger penalty? Has the lifetime ban ever been on the cards?
so we have, because there are some that have had, I don't know how they even do it. I think it all depends on how much money you pay in weightlifting. Because
Mm.
there are some that have had like, it used to be you got a 2 year ban, now I think an 8 year ban. But some of them have had 2 years and then like, I don't know, another 2 years or something like that. Because there are people that are competing that have had multiple bans and are still going.
Yeah.
They couldn't have added 208 because there's no way they'd have had 10 years and still be going. Yeah, so it's all a bit dodgy. They kind of make it up, but like
Hmm.
they brought in this 4 year ban in the UK, but that's not, the IWF doesn't follow that rule as far as I know. So they're still on a 2 year ban. Like the 4 year ban, I think it's got to be as like a minimum. I just think it should be a lifetime if it's for something like steroids. If it's something that's like, if it's something like stimulants, then it could
Mm.
be a shorter ban. But the people that are caught on like 4 different types of steroids and then the post cycle stuff to stop them being all messed up, like it's very clear that you are going out your way to cheat, and then just ban
Yeah.
them for life.
And I think in that instance as well, there's got to be some, yeah, because there has to be some consideration for like the satellite cells and things that have, because once you've taken them, you
Yeah,
still then have the potential for the benefits from
yeah,
it. Uh, and like, yeah, it's a tough one because like some people I've heard just say like it should just be like straight ban for life, or is it
yeah,
4? Is it, I mean, 8 would, like if you're going to move anywhere from 2, like I think 8 has to be your next thing, because like then you're
yeah,
saying to somebody you are going to miss 2 Olympics, or
yeah,
you're going to miss at least 1, right? um but yeah, it's a, like once you have taken it, you already set a good path for yourself, even if you only take it for a bit and stop.
yeah,
Yeah, you've already strayed from that other path. But do you think it's like affected it, certainly like for us around the UK, and it's kind of got this like veil over it at the moment, because of a lot of the news.
Yeah. I don't
Has
know.
I guess with like, have you felt like it's impacted things like the numbers of people at competitions, or like people at workshops and those sorts of things?
Not really, to be honest. Like, you would expect it to have a more of a negative impact, but it sort of hasn't really. And like, it's funny, but you can hear my dogs, I'm guessing, right now having a good bark.
Yeah.
I think people who aren't actively like competing on a high level sort of don't care because it doesn't
Hmm.
affect them. Like when you're the one who's been training for like 10 or 15 years real hard to try and get something that you know you can't achieve, like it's a lot worse.
Mm.
But I think a lot of people just kind of, they're just doing it for fun anyway. So
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter if the people at the world championships are taking loads of drugs because they just want to go to the gym a couple of nights a week. They're enjoying a bit of lifting. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of like irrelevant to them because they're not aiming for that. They just want to hit their first, 70 kilo snatch or whatever. And or like,
Mm.
I coach a lot of people that they just enjoy doing the movements and like, that's
Yeah.
what I was like when I started. I enjoy the training, I enjoy doing the movements. And so if that is the case, then it kind of doesn't really matter to you.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't trickle down that far. I
Yeah.
wonder, like, has when CrossFit came in, did that really help sort of drive up numbers at competitions? Because it
Yeah.
seems like a hard thing to get into, weightlifting specifically, not CrossFit.
Yeah. Like, so when I started weightlifting, I was at obviously a weightlifting club, but it was just a room cupboard. And then we had, so that was in Southeast London. And then there was, in London, there were another two, it was Crystal Palace and Bethnal Green.
Hmm.
And then outside of that, like there's three in the sort of Londonish area. And then in the whole rest of the country, there was only about 3 to 5 other clubs.
Yeah.
Like it just, weightlifting just didn't exist really, other than those tiny little clubs. And even then, like you got into it by mistake. Like I didn't go looking for a weightlifting club. I
Yeah.
went to learn how to do backflips and became a weightlifter. Um, and the same like Crystal Palace would get them because it was like other sports people would go in there as part of their
Hmm.
strength conditioning, and Keith would be like, "You're a weightlifter now." Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, Bethnal Green had like the powerlifting and stuff as well. So I'm not really sure how they drag people in the door. But yeah, generally it's like you became a weightlifter by accident. But there was
Yeah.
nothing until CrossFit came along, and then suddenly people were getting all this exposure to weightlifting, and then there were so many more places where you could do weightlifting, and yeah, it made a huge difference, especially in the women as well. Like we went
Hmm.
from a women's category at British Championships would normally have like maybe three girls lifting in a category, sometimes less. And then
Yeah.
when a couple of years after CrossFit came about, that became like 20 girls in the category and more women
That's
competing than men.
Yeah, that's a really awesome thing. And also for me, like working in a gym over the last 10 years, it's really hard to to get female clients to do the weights, and yeah,
Yeah.
now that's a lot easier. Um, could CrossFit be another avenue for you? Does that, if you're getting good at fitness and you're strong?
um, no, you know what? I like CrossFit. I think it's great. When coached well, I should say.
Yeah.
And like it's cool. And like at the minute, I'll be doing loads of, well, mostly just kettlebell training, but loads of like fitness exercises with it, fitness workouts with it, and I really enjoy it.
Mm.
But I'm someone that's like, I've competed at a decent level in weightlifting, or as good as it can get without basically taking drugs. Um, I wouldn't go on to something where I couldn't be as good. Like I basically like, yeah, I've done 3 Commonwealth Games, 1 Olympic Games. I'm like, so that I would rather do nothing after that than go and be just average or nobody,
In
nothing
another
else.
one.
Um, yeah, and the same with like competing. So I was gonna try, like, I'll see what my body does, and if my adductor gets better, I'll start training again,
Hmm.
like properly for weightlifting. But if I was training properly, and after 6 months, I could still only do like 80 or 85%, 90% of my best lifts, then I would just say like, I'll call it a day and just do lighter training and just look after my body. Like, I'm not interested in doing it on a lower level at all, unless it's a case of, yeah, I'm just not really actually. I can leave that sentence there.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I guess like when you go to the biggest sporting event, everything else is definitely going to carry less weight, less
Yeah,
excitement. And how was it? How was the Olympic Games?
it was pretty awesome.
Olympics?
Yeah, and like I remember when I was a kid, and Andy, a coach, he said, like your aim is to win a medal at the Commonwealth, but also just to go to an Olympics, like because he's got couple of Commonwealth medals, and he competed
Yeah.
in the Barcelona Olympics, and I remember him saying, I could have only been, I don't know, I think I was about 16, 17 at the time. In fact, I'll do a quick tangent here because what he used to do was, remember when I was like 14, 15, 16 or whatever, he used to call me up on a Sunday morning at literally 7:30 on a Sunday in the morning, call you up, you answer, your phone wakes you up buzzing. Yeah. Go, all right, son, fancy coming down to gym for some power cleans? No, Andy, it's 7:30 on a Sunday and I'm in bed. He'd be like, well, I'm outside. And he'd open you. I was at my parents' house and like open the blinds, curtains, and he'd be sat there in his Kangoo van, ready to go, as though he just never gave you a choice about it. He was like, I'm asking you, but I'm already at your house, and you're not getting a choice about what's actually happening here."
Wow, so pretty important coach then.
Yeah, and so like because of stuff like that, like he was the one that said about the Olympics, and I remember him saying about like how going to the Olympics is so different to any other competition. And like I did my first Commonwealth in 2010, again with a ruined back. And I was like, well, the Olympics is a similar thing. Like it's a multi-sport games, it's in a village and everything. So I was like, it's probably like this, I'm like, this is good, but it's not like, I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't like aiming for a medal there because I was too injured anyway, so that would have changed it. But I was like, yeah, I'm guessing the Olympics is going to be just like this. But when I actually got to the Olympics, you realize that like he was so right. You can't compare it because it is so different. It's so much bigger, and especially I think doing our home Olympics changes everything because when
Yeah.
they say your name and you have the presentation at the start, and they say your name, and then they say Great Britain after it. And because it's the home Olympics, like the crowd was 10 times as loud. And I was just like, grinning, like, wow, this is pretty nice. And like that. And I missed one snatch, but then got both snatches and all three clean and jerk, finished on British record. And I was just like, yeah, this is real. This is pretty
I
good.
mean, that day sounds like it couldn't have gone better, lift wise.
Huh?
That sounds like it couldn't have gone better, lift
No, that
wise.
was pretty awesome. Like it just to finish as well, like on a British record, on a good lift and a British record in front of a home crowd, it was just amazing. And that was when I realized that, yeah, he was right. Like you can't compare anything to the Olympics. And that's
People's
partly why, like, because I've coached some younger lifters and so on. And on one side, I'm like, I kind of don't want to encourage them in weightlifting because I'm like, it's so full of drugs. There's a real limit to what you can do. But on the flip side, if they are good enough to make an Olympics, then actually it is so cool just to be there competing at an Olympics that it does make everything worth it.
You're in a very exclusive club, so
Yeah.
that's absolutely amazing to have gone to one and then to have gone to the home, because I suppose one thing that's going to really help to make it feel a lot different is people's passion. Like the audience's passion at that moment is going to be so
Yeah.
elevated.
Yeah.
Versus a Commonwealth. And where was the
Yeah.
Commonwealth?
Say it again.
Where was the Commonwealth?
My first one was in Delhi, India.
Oh man,
I
I'd love to go
remember.
to India.
I'm trying to remember even what the competition was like. Comp day. I don't know. I enjoy competition, so I always enjoy competing. It was like, I don't know, fairly busy, nothing special. It was a decent arena, but again, it was kind of like, it was good, but nothing that memorable.
Did you feel any different? Like, so obviously preparing for these competitions is like a big part of the process. But when you then prepare for an Olympic Games, does that suddenly feel like, oh wow, this is a bigger weight that I'm now carrying?
Yeah, like, So I guess my first Commonwealth, the experience was real different because I hurt my back like 3 or 4 months before and basically didn't train for 4 months. So I was going there knowing that I was really broken. All I was trying to do was get through the day. Like I just had my back injected to be numbed for the 2 hours of competition, so I couldn't feel a thing, and then was completely destroyed afterwards. Like, but I hardly lifted at all for 3 months because it was so bad. So I was going in with no expectation. It changes everything. Whereas then for the Olympics, it was just, yeah, like we felt the pressure. And it's funny, like, because the things that I remember there was articles about us and there was like a countdown clock in the gym um, to the games, but all of us ignored it. Like that never meant anything to us. But then when things start happening, like kitting out for the Olympics, then suddenly you're like, wow, actually, I'm going to be competing there in like 2 months, or you go
Yeah,
on like the training camps for it. And then like, yeah, you feel a lot of stress actually, like, because it's just so important to you because you work so hard. Like, we were training 5 hours a day for it. We were doing double sessions, like a 2 hour one in the morning, a 3 hour one
yeah.
in the afternoon. So like, it was our lives basically. Um, and it was just so important. You put so much into it, and yeah, I remember sleeping real badly for months leading into it because it was just like there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and
But
and I guess like there's going to be a little bit more pressure knowing that it's in London as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just so much more relevant. So many more people are going to hear about it and
Mhm.
see you, and you knew that it would be busier because it is in London, and so there's going to be a lot of home support there and everything.
And I think did it, if I remember reading the other day, did you finish the highest in for GB?
Yeah, but I don't know if Pete's overtaken me now because so many have been banned.
It's going to
So
be. I was going to
um,
say, what's your position now versus
yeah,
2015?
um, so I finished in 10th in London, and then I've stayed in 10th. There's not been a single ban. But Pete at Kirkbride, I think 9 people came back positive in his class.
Ooh,
So I think another one has just been caught as well. I like they're still doing them. So I think he's ended up in 8th now from wherever it was. And like, so I remember he's either 8 or 9
mhm.
came back in the retrospective test. Um, and then I remember looking at the results, and the whole top 10 had actually been banned overall because, like, say 9 of them got in the retrospective, and one of them just failed a test like 2 years afterwards. So everyone in that top 10 had failed a test at some point. Um, and he's ended up in 8th. Gaz has just got found out about someone failed on a retest they've done of their London sample, so he's going to move up one, but he was a bit lower in the first place. He had quite a busy category. So
He's
it's all
looking
a mess
strong.
now. I don't even know.
It
Like,
is.
it's just it kind of makes a joke of it. You know, when like 8 or 9 or 10 people in one weight class, it's more than half the people will come back with positive tests, and like it does make a joke of the whole thing.
That's insane. Are any British hopefuls looking good for next year? Because they've changed the qualifying period, haven't they?
Yeah, so I don't even know what's going on at the minute with the Olympic stuff because once I missed the Worlds, like it basically became irrelevant to me.
Mm.
I know that
Is
for
it,
the men,
has this
like
year's Worlds been moved,
I don't
or
know
did
about the
that?
Worlds because they still haven't done the Europeans. The Europeans should have been in April,
Yeah, okay.
and I think they're moving that to later on in the year. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything really planned at the minute, so it's a bit of a mess. Like this is a real it would be a real stressful time. Like if I
Mm.
was still hoping to go for it, like it would be a pretty rough one because you just don't know what's happening and you've got to do an extra year of training and all the competition dates are changed and
Mm.
yeah, it's pretty messed up.
And having to hit all those competitions and making sure that you can get to them all.
Yeah. And like you just so, so I don't even know whether British Weightlifting are paying for it or not at the minute. Um I think they paid for mine. I think that's they're still paying for competitions, but nothing else. But then that changes from competition to the next.
Yeah. So I guess at the moment then, if there's been the qualification period for next year has been moved, I guess no one's on the list yet.
Well, so I think what they're saying is like the first two phases are over, and so anything from those first two phases stands,
Hmm.
and then the third period is going to move to who knows when,
Hmm.
whenever they can fit it in, basically. In fact, it should have probably already happened by when. I don't know when the Olympics are supposed to be.
Well, I think next year it's July,
Yeah,
or it's like end of July, start of August usually. So I guess like this year probably would have been now.
yeah. Um,
So
so yeah, they're shifting everything back, but it's messy and it's going to be just horrible for anyone involved, really, because you don't know if things are all going to change again and they'll have a second lockdown for everyone. And
no, the thing
yeah,
at the moment that's really frustrating. So here in Wales, we are still under gym lockdown,
right.
whereas I live about 18 miles from Bristol.
Yeah,
So like, yeah, I can pop over the water.
yeah.
And actually, like quite a few of my clients this week are like, right, I'm going to Bristol to train. Okay. And
Yeah.
and
Um,
the other mad thing is that so the other day you had in England you had enforced you got to wear masks into shops and
yeah,
post offices and whatever,
yeah,
uh, but you don't need to wear them into the gym,
yeah.
which is the last thing that you've opened.
Yeah. It's actually it's all a bit ridiculous. I've got to the point where I just ignore everything, really. I went because so gyms reopened at the weekend, didn't they?
Hmm.
And I was down in London anyway, so I did go in a couple of times, and like, to be fair, social distancing was not a thing. That was just like cracked on with it. Saw a friend. Like, I only went in there because to go and train with friends anyway.
Hmm.
So I knew that social distancing wasn't going to happen because I've gone there intentionally to train with some friends, not because I particularly want to train. I'm just
Yeah.
doing it for a bit of a social more than anything. To go and do some power cleans or someone. Um, and like since I got back, I haven't actually been to the gym up here yet. Because like I've got a squat rack in the garage. I've got
Mm.
200 kilos of weight. So I've got kettlebells up to 48 kilos. And so, like, unless I want to actually do some sort of snatch or clean and jerk, then I got no real need or reason
To go. Mm.
to go. And like, I quite like doing it at home. When it's sunny, I like doing it out in the road. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen that's pretty nice to be able to just take it outside.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I've quite enjoyed the change, and like, cause
Hmm.
I've weightlifted for so long that it's been actually quite nice for me.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so you're a teacher, yeah.
yeah.
So how's teaching on Zoom? I'm assuming you might have
Oh,
had to do a bit.
yeah, yeah. I've complained about online teaching a lot. Um, you know what? It's hard work. I'm glad it's summer holidays now because
Yeah.
it was pretty rough, that change to online teaching. It's more just that, like, online teaching, it basically takes all of the fun stuff out of teaching and leaves you with only the boring stuff. So like teaching, like, it's a lot of work and it's hard, but like it's a really entertaining job. Like, kids are funny, they say funny things, they do
Yeah.
funny things, like they fully entertain you in a lesson and you have a good time. But like going online, you lose like the interactive part of it, and it just becomes like it just becomes an office job where you're sat there from 8 in the morning till 4 o'clock, 4 in the evening, and you just tap away and send out lessons. You do some live, mostly you're just sending out worksheets and
Yeah.
marking worksheets. And like, there's a reason I've never worked an office job, and that really was like proving to me that I would never be able to work just an office job because I, yeah, after however long we did of that, I was not coping well. So I'm hoping that in September we go back as normal. Because like,
Yeah, I was going to say what's
yeah,
happening, what's meant to happen.
yeah, I don't even know. I think my school has not really said too much because they're waiting for government guidelines. Like, I think
Mhm.
it's smart. You don't want to say we're going to do this and that, and then the government say actually it's got to be done like this. So they're not saying too much at the minute. We're just wait and see, and we'll find out nearer the time. But yeah, I'm
I
excited to be back in and do it properly.
with the government changes, like they're coming so often. So I went to Hereford for the weekend
Mm.
this past weekend, and I met up with some friends, and we were staying in an Airbnb, you know, social distancing,
Yeah,
obviously.
of course.
And we went to Tesco's, and so they're from London, so they automatically like put their masks on, and we got to walk in, and then I wasn't allowed in, and they were like, "You haven't got a mask," and I was like, "Well, no, I've been in Wales, I haven't needed one." I've been like 10 miles over there. I haven't needed one yet. That was my first time wearing one on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm bad at it to be like I'm remembering it just because you actually need it now. Like,
Mm.
I mean, I had a mask that I only wear when I've got in a taxi, but other than that, I haven't bothered because it doesn't even make sense. Like, because you can go to bars and restaurants, and because you're eating and drinking, you don't have to wear a mask, but then you got to wear it in, and like you're all sat in there talking and stuff in the restaurants, and like, but then you got to go to a supermarket, and then you do have to wear a mask, and like you said about gyms, you have to wear a mask in the gym when people are panting away, and like that's one thing that's really got me during lockdown. I got two German Shepherds. I walk them like by the canal every day. Joggers. I really hate joggers now. That's what I've learned over the
That's
last
what you
month
meant.
because they run past you and they're panting so loudly, like coughing and panting everywhere. And I'm like, you need to just go away, go and pant somewhere else. You're like,
Well, you're not going to get away from that in a gym, right? Like,
no, I'm sure they're worse. Like they are just bad. But you're right. Then it's like the Panthers have then been moved inside to go and pant directly on everyone. But when they run past, they're never more than a meter away from you anyway. It's like they come right up beside you, panting all over you, and it's just yeah, not a
so
fan of joggers.
you got two German Shepherds.
Yeah,
Oh man, that's so cool.
yeah,
Dogs are the
they're a nightmare.
best.
Though. I love them, but they're a nightmare. They are trouble. They just love to bark. Like they're both one's 8 years old and the other's nearly 8. And like dogs are meant to be calming down, but one
Yep.
of them is just insane. Like I walk her every day, sort of 45 minutes to an hour. I get off for a little bit, for and like they'll wrestle each other and stuff. But even doing that, like she's still mental. And even though I take her out every day, the second I go near her lead, she runs around the kitchen, going round and round in circles around the kitchen table, like squeaking and whistling. Like she is an insane dog.
At eight.
Yeah, 8 years old, and she'll
And
still drag me the whole way to the park or the canal. Even 8 years old, like she's going to be insane for the rest of her life.
yeah, I was going to say, I thought German Shepherds would definitely start to slow down around 8.
Yeah, well, I thought that she should have, but apparently not. She is mental. I feel like part of it, like I brought it upon myself by making like so like the dogs are on like a good diet. They have fancy food. It's the right amount of it. They don't get any like junk food. If any extra like snacks they get bits of raw meat when I'm chopping it, and they get some vegetables. Like if I'm chopping a carrot, they get vegetables. So they got a real healthy diet. They go on loads of walks and everything. And I'm like, I'm paying for this now because by keeping them healthy, I've kept them like all energetic
Oh,
of a
then
man.
you said got the
Yeah.
amount of people I have met in the last 12 years of doing this. The amount of people I've met, and I'm like, do you think maybe you could just drink like a pint of water a day? And they're like, well, I'll try. Okay. Yeah, I bet you don't say that to the vet though, do you? You go to the vet. Oh,
Yeah.
what's the matter with my dog? Your dog's got a gammy knee. Ah, okay. You need dog physio. How much is that? That's £500 a session. No worries. Like fuck.
You know what? Just on that note, I don't know what it is, but why won't people just drink water? There's so many people that like they say they've got various issues and like, how much you drink? And they're like, 2 cups of tea a day. I'm like, you ever thought about actually drinking something like just
Just
pint of
water.
water so you don't die? But some people are really just against that, and I've never figured out why.
No, and I have a lot of people who are like, oh, I just don't really like water.
Yeah, that's a common one.
You're like, cool. No one's fucking asking you to like it.
Yeah.
It's just you need it.
Yeah.
There's the assumption that you have to, especially if someone wants to diet. It's like now there's a big thing that you have to like really, really enjoy everything. And we had this on another podcast where somebody was like, "Fuck, I hate fucking cauliflower." And then it was like, I was like, yeah, but you've got to have shit you don't like sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, like, dieting is just unpleasant.
Hmm.
And, like, if you actually want to lose weight, you just have to accept that it's actually not fun. And, like, I can be quite unsympathetic about it because I've been making weight in like in a weight making sport for 15 years, and so like I've been doing that so much that you just learn to accept that sometimes you're gonna be hungry.
Well, with the weight, how did the weight class affect you? Because didn't weightlifting change it from 77 to
Yeah,
80?
81 it changed to, yeah, which was quite nice really. Because 77, like I'd lifted that 77 for when did it change? 29 or end of
I
2018?
want to say, yeah, 2018 or
At
2019.
least I'd been lifting as a 77 for at least like 8 years.
Mm,
So it was a long time, and it was getting harder to make it. Like I could make it, but it was, you spent a good few days hungry or just not eating at all at the end.
mm.
And so yeah, it moved to 81, which was quite nice because it just meant I could just sort of eat normally, basically. I did get pretty fat though. I got to like 83 kilos and was just looking pretty round.
So so standard.
Yeah,
Everybody who like moves up a weight class. They're like, oh wait, no, I've overshot it. Shit.
yeah, I definitely did. And like a friend sent me a video. I was down training at his gym like a couple of years ago, and I was just doing some power snatch, and he sent me the video, and I looked at him and was like, wow, I was a chunk at that point. Um, so yeah, I lost a load of that weight again anyway now, during
And
lockdown.
I guess the other tough thing, if you were going to be the one going from 77 to 81, there's going to be people who would have gone from like, I don't know what the next
Yeah,
one is it
85.
85?
Yeah.
Like they would have come down and like, would that have made your pool harder?
Yeah.
You know?
So the in terms of like world and Olympic and so on, Europeans, like it's terrible. So like in terms of getting to eat more, great, but
Mm.
it really makes it so much worse because the so it changed from 77 and 85 into an 81 and 89. But not all of them lead to the Olympics. So the 89, I think it is, doesn't go to the Olympics,
Right.
which means the people that were 85s, all of them move down to 81, because
Yeah.
otherwise the next category up is 96. And so none of them are going to become 96s because they wouldn't be strong enough to go
Yeah.
to the Olympics at that. So they've all the 85s drop down to 81, all the 77s go up to 81, and you end up with just a ridiculously hard category because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
Weightlifting just gets like such a hard time with some things like this, and
Yeah,
with the point system as well. With training for those, well, Commonwealth and Olympics,
yeah.
do you always tend to do? It's like a big thing of people doing like 12-week cycles, but you know, is it like a 12 or 16, or is it led by British weightlifting?
No, they don't have anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nothing of it as
Okay.
well. I don't know. I think Stu might coach some people, but otherwise, it's not like they're just completely out of it. You just have to go to competitions, lift the qualifying weights, and hope that they want to take you to the competition. And then, yeah. So for me, like, generally, I would have a plan of. So, say if I started training again, I would just look at all the competitions that I need to get to what I want. So, like,
Mm.
to go to, say, I would literally just plan it all around the competition. So, say the British Championships are normally like July, so that would be one where I'd aim to qualify for bigger stuff. But then the Europeans would be April, so there's a couple of months between those, and then
Yeah.
before that, the English would be in like February, and then you'd have a qualifier before that in like November or December. So it would always be 8 to 12 week blocks,
Mm.
and then it's just whatever it kind of needs. But I wouldn't ever really do more than 12 weeks because, like, I just think that you end up a bit battered. Or if you do, it's kind of like I wouldn't call it a 16-week block as such, because it's basically just it's a 12-week block with a bit of time off and then a rebuild. But generally, like in my coaching, I always work in 8-week blocks unless people have a competition,
Mhm.
just because I feel like it works well. And by the end of 8 weeks, if you push them enough in the last couple of weeks, generally, like once they do their max in week 8, they're pretty
Mm.
dead. And so like that's when I'm like, right, just chill out for a week, do whatever the hell you
Yeah.
want, eat some food, do some training if you want to keep moving. but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can't handle the longer blocks. And also like people want to go heavy. So
Mhm.
if you tell them they can't do it for 6 weeks, 16 weeks, then they're like, no, nothing. But
That
yeah,
is a thing in weightlifting. Is there's a lot of maxing out.
yeah,
It's a big trend with this, especially with these Saturday max outs.
yeah. We used to have when we were training together for London Big Fridays. So that would go. So like you'd have a normal training block, but then for the last like 4 weeks of it, you'd have like a big Friday every week, or often there are points where we'd be competing every month. So you'd have like the main training block, and
Yeah.
then it would just basically be mini like 4 week blocks where it would stay heavy at like 90% for, well, there'd be like 1 week after, it wasn't even a whole week. So if you competed on a Saturday, you'd have a deload from Monday to Wednesday. But when I say deload, it's like 85% still. And then you could be back to Big Friday that same week.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
they were pretty savage. But yeah, that's all right when you're 20, but I guess couldn't do that at all anymore. Like the last few years, I'm trying to think like the numbers that I did in training. So when I clean jerk 175 a couple of times in competition in the last few years, and I think since about 2015, 16, I've not
Mhm.
been above a 165 in training. Like so,
Okay.
yeah, no, I
So you've actually
definitely
been,
haven't for years.
yeah.
I
So you've
never go
actually
like to
been
a
living
real,
a bit sub.
yeah. Like Andy, the way he used to put it is like you always leave one in there. There's
Mhm.
always like the last lift you do, you should always feel like you could do a little bit more. And like I've kept that myself because it's if nothing else, like it's good for your confidence. Because say you do a 165 and it's fine,
Mhm.
then you miss 170 because that would have been a sort of real max lift. Then
Yeah.
the last thing you remember going into competition is that you missed 170. So it's
Yeah.
much nicer to do a 165 and then go into competition thinking, yeah, I smashed that 165. I'm going to get like 175 in comp. So like for your confidence, not going to a max can be a lot better.
I
Yeah,
think yeah, it's definitely the same here. Like well, it's definitely the same in powerlifting. I think there's so much confidence to the strength sports. Like
yeah,
there's a lot of physiology, but if you don't rock up like having already defeated it,
yeah,
mm,
yeah. And like I enjoy competition. So for me, it's like it's a chance to kind of show off a bit and go heavy. So I love it. Like I go into competition and I'm like, I really have that mindset of like, damn, I did such a good 165. I'm gonna be doing 175. I think I can get 180 on the bar today. Whereas like other people are more like, oh, I hit 165. It was hard. And I hope I can get this, and like just a negative attitude to it. And once you're in that sort of worrying attitude, you're already kind of screwed. And you always feel good on comp day anyway because like you have a few days of rest, you have all
mhm.
your caffeine and stuff, and fill yourself up with that. And then I start warming up. I'm like, yep, ready to go.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a real nice feeling actually. Like it's what makes weightlifting or sport in general fun. The competitions for me.
yeah, I'm with you there because I've seen a lot of people over the years who are like, oh, like comp day. Like
Yeah,
no, fucking come on, now's your time to shine. You
yeah,
gotta be ready to show off. And I think the people who obviously there's a limit, but the people who do show off, it's like, oh shit, okay, they've
yeah,
got more in their tank than you know.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
had I trained a guy, and I hope he listens to this, who for a time was a professional zombie.
Zombie. Okay.
Yeah, you love saying that. So he would do things
Girl.
like movies, video games, like blue screens with them, go to
Yeah,
theatre, teach them and stuff. And like his training, he could do his training cycle, it'd be okay. But when I took him to I took him to his second competition. I missed his first one, but took him to his second one.
yeah,
And I knew I'd seen like pictures of him and like snippets of him acting as a zombie, and he was
yeah,
like insane. And then we go to this comp, and he does what somebody like that we'd think when it comes to his lift. He's really, really placid, quiet, and then he'll just like flicking a switch when he touches the bar. But he is the biggest showman I've ever seen. And we walked away from that comp, and I was like, "Where the hell did you get that squat from, or that deadlift from?"
yeah,
And I was just like, you could just see he's such a natural born performer that his elevation was like 10%. Now we're having
yeah.
30.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that, isn't it? Because like the way that people can react to competitions, and I've had like some that go and do that, like they just go and they really shock you that someone that's like real quiet or whatever normally can go and just like become a different person and just really get stuck in. And like
Yeah.
then there are other people that live really well normally, and then they go to competition and they just like look terrified, and you have to take their openers down about 10 kilos from what you were originally thinking. And then like you're trying your best not to take them down, because then it's
Yeah.
like admitting to them that you are worried, and you're kind of stuck in that position. Yeah,
Yeah, and I sometimes really wonder like how it'd be impossible to kind of measure the effects of that, but you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like how much does the nerves take off, or how much does
yeah,
being a performer like elevate you?
yeah,
One thing that I would love you to answer is elbow position in the front squat. So I feel right. So people at the moment, when you see
yeah,
somebody, or at the moment, a lot of people are very, very obsessed with the elbows being as high as possible and
yeah,
like in line with my shoulder.
yeah,
Whereas what I've always tried to advocate, unless somebody can't really do it, is trying to keep a full hand on the bar
yeah,
wherever your elbow is, as long as it's not
yeah,
literally vertical, you're all good.
yeah,
Because you want that grip, you want to be able to have the control and not have it
yeah.
like sat in your fingertips. So it's one thing that I think people will argue over a lot, but from a weightlifter, like there's not many better sources.
So this is one of those things, and there's a lot of stuff where basically I lie to beginners
Mhm.
about what's the right thing to do until they're good enough to like earn a different way to do it. So like beginners, I will make them use a full grip, try and get it right into their
Mhm.
palm, um, because I want to stretch out their lats, I want to stretch with their elbows and shoulders, and like basically I want it to be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
because it's going to make them more mobile, and like readjusting your hands as you come up, not necessarily like making them move right out or anything, but just
Yeah.
that regrip is a skill that takes a long time to actually get. And so beginners don't have that. And so if they practice like on an open hand front squat, they do that on their clean, and then they can never get it back in to actually jerk it. So for beginners, I'd rather them grab the bar tight and, well, not super tight, but try and get it sort
Mhm.
of into their palm. If the elbows are down a bit, that's fine as long as they are trying to have
Yeah.
them up. And like I pass out on front squats a lot, so I quite often, if I'm having those days, then I'll properly grip it, and my elbows are right down. And like people have asked me before, they're like, "How come you squat with your elbows so far down?" I'm like, "I just don't want to pass out." Um, but then yeah,
It's a good
if I'm not
reasoning.
having a passing out day, then I do the opposite. Like I actively tell people not to front squat like me, because I take the bar right at the very start of the knurling, balance it on my ends of my fingers, and ram my elbows right up, just because it feels nicer on my dodgy elbow because it doesn't pull on it. So I'm only doing it to take the pain off my elbow, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't mean it's a good thing. So
Yeah.
like I'm always telling people different things really, depending on the situation. But for beginners, I like, or like people who just stiffer in general,
Yeah.
I would much rather them grab a hold of that bar, and even if the elbows are a bit low, actually get a bit of hand on it so you can do
Mhm.
something afterwards.
That's okay. That's a really good explanation, and a lot more than you'd expect from a question about like that about grip position.
Yeah, fair point. I overdid it.
Well, yeah, it has been awesome like having you on. Thank you so much for your time, man.
No worries. And I just want to say before I go, that is a great chair. A
Yeah,
nice
thank you.
proper
Isn't it?
wing back. Is that a Chesterfield too? We got the little
Yeah,
hippie bits. It's real
yeah.
nice.
Got the yeah. I mean, you can even see the desk now as well.
Oh, you got the leather top desk.
Oh yeah.
What color is it? The leather.
I don't want. I'm a bit embarrassed about that actually because I've got two burgundy chairs and it's green on the desk.
I've got the same desk, by the way. That I've got
Ew,
one of them with the green top just downstairs.
lovely.
Um, and I want to get one of those captain's chairs, the swivel chairs that goes with it. And
They
I
are.
saw a good one the other day, and it was real cheap on Marketplace. And I messaged, and it was already sold 8 minutes after they put it on. So pretty disappointing.
That was
But
pretty fast.
yeah, it was real cheap for what it was because they're normally like 250, £300 for those beauties.
I'm actually super lucky with this table because my dad is mad, and we were in an antique shop, and I was like, oh, I really like that table. I might get that table for the office. And then I was like, oh, but just gonna need to go in your van. And he's like, I've got an idea. So he like scribbles down 3 bits of paper,
Yeah.
puts them all face down. And then he was like, what's under there is how much you owe me for the table, because I didn't have any cash for me. So he goes and pays for the table. And I like, I think the table's like 250. I flip over 250, and he's like, well, fuck, cool. I got a free desk out of that because my dad is mad. But if you ever go to Cardiff, what the hell, the pump station, right? It's a place called the pumping station, which is, it's like Aladdin's cave. It's like about 5 floors,
Yeah.
and it's just all stuff like this.
Yeah. We got a place like that near us, and it's just so hard not to spend all of my money there. But yeah, I hope I'm moving house hopefully soon, and then I'm hoping to buy somewhere. So then I'll be just like make it real my own, and that's when I'll be getting that chair no matter what. Yeah, it'd be beautiful.
You gotta have an environment that you enjoy, right? And
Yeah,
for me, it's like pretending I'm the Great Gatsby sat at a desk.
yeah. I feel good when I'm at mine. I'm in the spare room at the minute because Sham's got a friend around, so they've taken over the living room where my desk is. So I've been demoted to this room instead with baby clothes and stuff behind me. I mean, if I'd have known that your setup was going to be like that, I'd have said, "Look, I need my desk." But I've learned,
Need a bit of time.
if you ever need to do another one, then I'll be ready. I'll have props. I got a big oil painting of 2 warships fighting behind me and everything. Like that room is I've really gone for it.
Good. Oh well, Jack. On the next one, I'll look forward to seeing your swivelly chair, though I might
Yeah.
be a bit jealous. But thank you ever so much for your time. It's
No
been a
worries.
friggin' pleasure.
Cheers. See you later.